Hey guys, it's Julian, and today I'm super excited to be talking to you about how to make Electro in the style of DMX Krew and DeFeKT. As usual, you can get the full project files, samples, MIDI, presets, every single thing from this video is available right at the top of the description on my Bandcamp, and if you're a patron on my Patreon, check there because it's already available. Thank you so much to everybody who goes to pick this up. It really helps support me. If you guys enjoyed these videos, definitely go grab that. It helps keep me going so I can keep bringing you new videos every day. And yeah, let's dive in. So, this is the loop that you heard in the intro. We're at 132 BPM. The first sound we have up here is the 808 kick. So as you can see, this is actually just the dry 808 kick. Really simple, but it's really just about making it, in the right place in the mix. Like if you listen to this. You can hear it just fine. You don't need all that extra saturation and compression and stuff to try to bring out, the hit from the kick. So, yeah, I think it just goes to show, you really don't need that much processing, especially with something like this. Like with these 808 kicks and especially the classic drum machine sounds, they sounded good in the drum machine, You really just need to let it kind of breathe and not mess that up. So I've got that there. The other thing with that is just making sure it's in key. If I pitch this up, there's the bass line. I'll put it up a few octaves. Right, the 808's in tune. So I think that's important. If you're going to combine an 808 kick and a bass line, you need to make sure the 808's in tune. So then we have these 808 toms. You can kind of hear those, those sort of fit into the same group, so to speak, as the kick. They're just adding a bit of movement in the low end there, right? That's what this is about. It's about, you stack the kick and these and the bass. And they're adding a lot to that group. If I take these off, see, the low end isn't quite as groovy. So it's a very subtle thing. It's something that when you're listening to the whole track, you might not even notice. But if you take it out, it's important. And especially if I play you just the drums. You can hear when we turn them off, it's a bit boring. So yeah, that really helps in the low end. And it's a subtle thing. It's just two of these in a group together. And yeah, and then we have these hi-hats. So these are also 808 hi-hats. Now what we're doing with this is you can see it's playing this pretty busy, energetic pattern that goes well with the groove. Right, that puts a lot of movement in there. So what's happening here is basically it's these three different samples, and you can see one of these is really long, but it stops. Every time you go from that open one to the closed one, it stops playing the open one. So that's what these chokes are right here. Essentially, you just set these up. If I put this on none, you'll see. See, now they just ring out, and you don't get that nice kind of tight thing happening. So if you set that to 1, basically every time another note plays, it will stop playing. And there you go. You get these really nice, tight electro hi-hats. And then it's also the pattern, right? Not just doing but kind of doing that. Making it a bit more busy and exciting. And yeah, that's just dry as well. Then we have the snare and clap. So what's happening is it's just a nice fat 808 snare and a nice 808 clap. And then you can see the snare is going through a flanger and the clap is going through a flanger, the snare is going through a chorus. And what we've done is you can see I turned the feedback up on the chorus. Here's without it. And with it. So it gives you this nice kind of metallic overtone on top of the sound. And it's really good for stuff like this because it's kind of giving some movement, right? Now when you play this with the kick and with the beat, you know, it's not quite the same example or the same sample twice, right? Like it always kind of changes and it's moving around, and it just adds a lot of life to this, and it also gives it that nice kind of like electro texture that you want. So I've got that on there, and then on the hand clap, same thing, but you can hear it's even heavier. But it's like kind of quietly in the background, which I think adds a lot of movement to the track. And this is like a big thing, you know, it's like rather than go and try to add a sound that's going to do that on its own, you're going to have a snare and a clap in here for the beat. Why not kind of have those create the movement, you know? So that's the idea behind this, kind of getting more out of less layers. And yeah, it sounds really cool on its own. Like, it can even be the intro to your track. Then we have this rim shot. And that's just kind of playing some extra notes in there. I'll play with the kick. You can hear the rhythm that's adding. I have this reverb here with like a bunch of pre-delay. So that's what's creating that kind of... And yeah, it's kind of a cool way to add some movement and make this a little bit more exciting. It's also going through some drum bus. Then we have some synth percussion. So I'm going to show you guys some new methods to make these. I used to use these a lot, and I don't use them as much anymore, but with this style, obviously we want to use it. I'm going to show you some new methods that I figured out to make them those. It's kind of different from anything I've ever shown you. So for the first one here, this is made with analog, and this one, you know, that plays pretty frequently, right? Like if we play it with the clap. Right, it's adding a lot of movement. And the first thing is the actual notes, right? Like, this doesn't work, and it's not going to be that catchy or exciting unless it has some well-placed notes. But yeah, so then for the sound, what's happening here, I'll show you why we have the random in a second. So the first thing is we're just using analog. So we have a sine wave, and then that has a bit of a pitch envelope on it, so that's creating that, like, right? And then we also have the noise oscillator. And then those are going into this bandpass filter here. And then what's happening is you can see I have the envelope on there, an LFO on there. So it's getting lots of movement from those, but also key tracking. And this is where the random note comes in, because essentially key tracking is the lower the note is, the more closed the filter will be. The higher the note is, the more open the filter will be. So with this sound, the filter is kind of what's creating the sound. So by putting this random note on here, it's jumping across the keyboard and playing like some really high notes, some really low notes. And because we have the key tracking and the filter is so heavily what this sound is getting its sound from, it creates a lot of different textures, and it's random. It's never going to be exactly the same thing twice, so it adds a lot of life to the track. If I turn that off, see, it's a lot more simple and flat. So it's kind of a nice way of doing that. And it's really just like a simple sound, but it's just using this stuff that's available for you in the synth to create something very lively. And then we just have a bit of unison. I have a flanger on this one as well to kind of give it that metallic sound. And then a high pass filter. And then the second one is made with operator. So this is like this, you can see it's a saw wave, a square wave, and then some noise. And they're detuned a lot with the fine tune there. You can see if I put those. See, it's a lot less interesting if you put them at 0. So I have those. I have a high pass filter on here as well. And then we're actually using the LFO on the volume of oscillator B to just kind of change this a little bit. You can see, like, if I play a bunch of notes. So you get a lot of movement there. So again, just kind of bringing the sound to life, making it feel more alive. And then I just have like a really short echo on that. And yeah. Then we have this gated snare. So what this is it's this nice gated snare. Kind of like a very like 80s type of snare. You know, very popular in these electro tracks. And what's happening is I've got it going through a chorus with a bunch of feedback, and then we're distorting that, and then it's being high passed. And then this just hits, every other bar, and you can see it kind of just gives you, like, I'll play you all the drums, and you can really hear it. You know, it just kind of like resets the pattern. You get that. It just kind of makes it like transition a little bit nicer. And it also works with this because you get. See, you have like right here, there's nothing, but this plays some notes. And then here, when it cuts out, you get this. So it's kind of like call and response with that lead as well. And yeah, so then the next sound that we have here is this lead. So this is actually really simple. We're in the key of G, and we're just using 2 notes here. It's just G and G sharp, but it's across different octaves. So yeah, very simple pattern. It's just very nice and kind of groovy. And the thing about this is that you'll notice, if we look at the other synths, actually, every synth in here is only using those 3 notes. Or excuse me, this is only using 2 notes, but it's only using 3 notes total, and this only uses 2 of them. So it's a very simple pattern across all of these, but I think that's a big part of what makes these work. Just the fact that you're hearing, like, these 3 instruments are playing very different parts, but only using those same 3 notes. I think that's a big part of it. So yeah, so this one's made with wavetable. What we've got here is we've got 2 saw waves, same octave, low pass filter with an envelope on it, you can see there. I believe I also have key tracking on this one. And then we're using the position sync unison to kind of give it some more flavor. I have a bit of echo. We have this amp which is actually being blended in there, so here's without that. And then with it, you can hear it gives it a really nice texture. We've got a little bit of drum bus and then just a high pass filter. And yeah, so pretty simple. Then we have the string set. So again, we're just using the same 3 notes, just G, G sharp, and F, but it's just holding those out. And it's all about how this kind of like plays out over top of that bass line. Like, these 2 have to be working together. So for the sound on this one, it's made with analog. We have 2 saw waves, detuned. The low pass filter, which has a little bit of an LFO on it to give it some movement. I've got the amp like that. And then we just have some vibrato and unison, a bit of chorus. Pretty simple sound. I think it's just doing it really well, right? It's just like really getting that to sound. That really good detune and that nice like saw wave kind of thing. I got a little bit of noise in there to kind of make it a bit more like old school sounding. And then we have the bass line. So for the bass line, it's really playing with this call and response thing when we do. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. And then over here, it's like slower. It's like the fast and then slow. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na-na-na. If this was just 16th notes the whole time, it'd be boring. And if it was just down, 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 that would be boring too. But having these 2 different patterns and doing call and response with them, that's what's making this work. And there's a lot of symmetry here, right? You can see like over here does the same thing as over here, just with a little bit of changes, you know, just kind of mixing it up. But yeah, very simple. And this is made with wavetable, so we just have 2 saw waves here, the same octave. We also have the sub oscillator to make it fatter. I have a low pass filter, which has an envelope on it. We're using the noise unison, which gives us a little bit of a different texture than just like your standard unison. And then finally, actually just utility converting the bass to mono, because you don't want anything lower than like about there to be super wide and stereo. And yeah. So that's gonna be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe, and let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said in the beginning, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, every single thing that you see right now that I've shown you in this video is available on top of the description for just $5 on my Bandcamp. Once again, this really helps support me. Plus, you guys are getting an awesome production template to be able to go and make your own drums in the style or your own sounds in the style. You know, you can take this and just switch out all the drum sounds and do your own thing with it. Or you could use it to learn from. There's a lot that can be done with this, but again, it really helps support me. Plus, you guys get an awesome template. Thank you so much for the support, guys, and I will see you tomorrow with another video.